Anyone here that still didn't get the Mamar? So we're on page 36, 37. And after giving the first explanation, the explanation that there are two kinds of ways that there's this interaction between Hashem and us. One is that the Srusa the Tata comes first, and that brings Srusa the Leila. And the other is the Srusa the Leila comes first, and that brings Srusa the Tata. And the difference is that the Srusa the Leila, when it comes first, has the advantage that it came without me putting in the hard work, but it's not long lasting, it's temporary. The Srusa Tata means that I work much harder on myself, refining myself, preparing myself, making myself a keli. But eventually, when the Srusa Leila comes, as a result of that, it penetrates, becomes part of me, and it's permanent. Now he's going to go back and answer some of the questions that came up in the beginning of the Mamar. So, going back to the beginning, pasuk, Adam ki Yakriv Mikem, page 36, 37. Zehu Adam ki Yakriv Mikem. The simple pshat is it's talking about us. One of you will bring a carbon. And in fact, that was the basis for the question. It says, Adam ki Yakriv Mikem. And according to the proper way things are written, it should have said, Adam Mikem ki Yakriv. Not if a person will bring a sacrifice from amongst you. But it should mean that if a person amongst you will bring a sacrifice. So the word Adam here is not only the simple meaning, but it's also alluding to something deeper. By the way, whenever we learn in Chassidus that it says that there's a deeper meaning, such and such, this doesn't negate the simple meaning. It just means that in addition to what is a simple meaning, that's why we translate it on a simple level. Then there are layers of depth, and this is the deeper meaning. And through the deeper understanding, a lot of the questions fall to the sides. So what is Adam alluding to? It's alluding to the Adam Elyon, which means that level of Adam that we spoke about that is on the throne, which is in the spiritual realm. It's talking about that Madrega L'Mayla, which is the source of the Adam down here. The truth is that Hashem is way above the midos, which means even though we say there are all the spheres and the midos, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, but in essence Hashem is abstract, Hashem is infinite, and midos are finite. So it means Hashem in essence is above the midos. He's not limited and defined by these midos. And Hashem eslabish be'eses spheres, Hashem encloses himself in these 10 spheres, which means he sort of manifests his light in a limited way, only because he chose to do so. The Nikru, Ramach Evarim, and it's called Ramach Evarim the Malka. These are the 248 organs of the king. In other words, we're calling it Adam. That means that that level of Maila has a similar structure to a human being. A human being down here is made up of different organs, 248 organs altogether. Up there are also 248 organs, which means 248 levels, but they're called Evarim the Malka, organs of the king, which means it's only a metaphor. In order to be able to shine his light to Yidden, to all the worlds which are finite. And that's when we refer to Hashem as Adam. In other words, the level in godliness that's called Adam is a lower level. The higher level, we can't even use the word Adam to describe it. Because Adam describes something or a level that has a structure. And the structure is made up of 248 different parts. We can't say that about Hashem. When you learn about the 10 spheres, very often when you first start learning about the 10 spheres, people raise the question that, but how could there be 10? Hashem is one, Hashem echad. And not only people raise the question, but there's actually, in the time that Kabbalah first started to come out, there were those who were against Kabbalah. And those who were against Kabbalah weren't necessarily people who had other issues. They were great tzaddikim, they were very great scholars, but they didn't know Kabbalah, didn't understand Kabbalah. And some of them just knew that this is something they're not supposed to study. And some of them had issues. So in fact, there's a sefer of a great Torah scholar that he says, I don't understand. How could you say 10? This is a contradiction to saying that Hashem is echad, is one. You're not allowed to believe that Hashem is made up of parts. And the answer is, he was explaining Chassidus, of course Hashem is one. He's absolute one, he's infinite, there are no parts, chas v'shalom. But because Hashem wants to shine his light to a finite world, and Hashem is infinite, so Hashem manifested his infinite light in 10 different ways. These are the 10 spheres. In order for us to be able to be mekabel his light, which means that in essence, there is no such thing as 10. But Hashem chose to manifest his light in 10 different ways, which makes it possible for the world to receive his light, because now the world is finite and it'll receive a finite light. And that's what he says there. Hashem himself, in Hashem as he is in himself, there is no such thing as spheres, as midos. But the midos are, once Hashem sort of lowers himself, which we call the process of tzimtzum, and Hashem manifests his light in this way, that's when he's called Adam. So Adam is a lower level, and there's a higher level that's beyond this. The small words are just references to other Maimarim. So we'll turn the page to page 38, 39. Yeah. Oh, a copy? Yeah, sure. Then Mamar Adam ki Yakriv, and this is what it means when it says Adam ki Yakriv. It's referring to that level of Adam. Hamshach hazur, so the level of Kinas Adam Elyon. When the Adam Elyon wants to bring you closer to him, that's what it means. The word Yakriv is a carbon, but the literal meaning of Yakriv is closeness. The Adam Elyon wants to bring me closer to him. The Hashem, to bring the heart of the person down here closer to him, as it says, they're just like water reflects a person's face, which means that when a person shows his face to the water, in the water you'll see reflection of his face, and whatever kind of face he has, that's what's going to be reflected. And if he's smiling, that's what he'll see in the water, smiling face. And if he's not smiling, he'll see a not smiling face. So the same is specifically with the attribute of love, that when Hashem loves us and allows us to feel that love, that causes us to love him. In fact, if you're keeping up with Chitas and Tanya, this is exactly what it's talking about in this chapter, chapter 46 in Tanya. And he says that these few chapters from 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, they're all about how a person could develop love and fear for Hashem. And in this chapter, he says, introduces something new. Another way of developing love for Hashem is to stop and think about this mashal, a mashal of a king that comes to a person who is in a very low situation. He finds himself in a very low situation, and the king comes to him and shows him his love and embraces him and kisses him and takes him to his palace and spends time with him personally. Could you imagine the feeling of love that this person will have to the king? So we should stop and think of how Hashem, the king, we were in Mitzrayim, Eretz Haaretz, the lowest place in the world, spiritually, morally, ethically, it was the lowest place. Hashem took us out, and not only took us out, they brought us as close as can be to Har Sinai, gave us the Torah. If you think about that, that should create a feeling of love. However, that's a thought process for maybe greater people. Ordinary people could think more about their personal lives, to try to think in their personal lives, to find that we can apply this mashal, how Hashem showed his love to me by doing this or that, took me out of a certain situation, brought me close to him. So when the klal is, the rule is, person's love, it brings your heart to reflect that love, and you have love for them. So Yakriv Mikem, Yakriv Mikem Mamish. Again, these are references, so we're going to move ahead. Page 40, 41. Yakriv is never shadam shalamata. This is the answer to the original question. Why does it say Adam ki Yakriv Mikem? It should have said Adam Mikem ki Yakriv. So the answer is, read it this way: Adam ki Yakriv. When the Adam Elyon wants to bring me closer to him, Mikem, then you bring the carbon from you. After he arouses you, then you arouse yourself to come to him. And it doesn't say Adam Mikem, one of you that'll bring a carbon. If it would have said Adam Mikem, then you can only read it in the simple literal way. That the person down here brings the carbon to Hashem. But now that it says Adam ki Yakriv Mikem, this alludes to what we just said before, that Hashem wants to bring me closer to him. And then I go ahead and I bring the carbon from me to him. And now this answers the other question. The question was, Mikem means from you, and Adam, ki Yakriv, is Lashon Yachid, is singular. It starts off in singular and finishes off in plural. So the answer is because the first part of the pasuk is actually talking about Hashem. Hashem is singular. The second part of the pasuk is talking about me responding by bringing my carbon, and therefore it's plural. That's why it says ki Yakriv singular. The koi alodam elyon shu echad, and Hashem is singular. He's one. Hashem echad. Again, the little words are references. Then it says, okay, so what should you do? If Hashem shows his love to us, then we should bring our carbon. But Hashem already aroused me. Hashem already got me excited. Hashem inspired me. What do I need to do now? Just take it in and enjoy the ride. Well, what do I have to do? So he's going to explain now. The question here is, if somebody has this chus, that they are inspired by Hashem, they don't know what to attribute it to, they didn't do anything specific, they weren't near someone who said something, or they didn't read something, just out of the blue, they feel an inspiration. And it's really helping them daven in a way like they haven't davened before. Okay, now we know from the Kuti Torah that it's not going to last because it's coming from above. What can I do that it should? How can I put it in my pocket and keep it? So that's what the pasuk is saying. Zeh waits the table menu yisbarach. This is Hashem's advice to us. Shemiyad be'eis rotzen zeh, when the eis rotzen, when this opportune moment comes. And nimshach mamayla, and as a result of that, from above, there is this eirus, there is an awakening. Lahoires nefesh adam, to arouse the person down here. Take it from miyad immediately. Taschilu atem gamkein laoirer susulutata. You do something to develop your love and fear as much as you can do. The hainu, what does it mean practically? The kfaya or the hapkas amidas nefesh habahamis, to work on disciplining the midas of your nefesh habahamis, to work on transforming the midas of your nefesh habahamis, and then you'll be creating a keli that what you're getting from above, you would be able to absorb it and be able to retain it forever. You're not going to lose it. And that's why it says, you bring your korban, which means you have to bring it from my nefesh habahamis. In other words, there's two ways that a person could react. One is that there's an awakening from above, and I'm enjoying every moment of it, and I'm inspired, and therefore my davening, my learning, everything is flying. And then when it's over, it's over. The other possibility is that now that Hashem did this, and I wanted this feeling to stay with me, that it should remain forever, I have to make myself a keli to absorb it. So that comes through me doing my avodah. And that's what the Torah is saying. Adam ki yakriv. If the Adam Elyon will arouse me, and what should I do in order to retain that, not to lose it? The answer is, that's why very often Rebbe would tell us, after Farbrengens, after certain special times, everyone should make a hachlata. In other words, let me do something additional, which is going to be the keli to hold on to that light that was shining and brought whatever specific additional bracha that came about. Yeah.
How many achlatas you can take?
How many achlatas you can take?
Yeah, it's too much. You feel very inspired and you have all the time inspiration.
Everybody's limits are different. You remind me of a story that one time there was a certain point in the year where every single Farbrengen, the Rebbe finished off saying everybody should make a new achlata. Once and again and again and again. So we had a teacher here, Rabbi Majeski, the library is on his name. So he said, as he was walking out of the Farbrengen, he heard two people talking. And one said to the other one, and this time I'm going to make a achlata and I'm not going to break it. The achlata is not to make any more achlatas. I think the answer to that is that people think achlata has to be to climb mountains. Make achlata to climb Mount Everest. We don't have to climb to the highest mountain in the world. Achlata doesn't have to mean I took something on that for the rest of my life, the next 120 years, I'm going to do this. Take a achlata of something that's not so huge, something small, but it's something new that I didn't do before. It doesn't have to be something for the rest of my life. I can take it on to do for a certain time period, and that's achlata. And that's usually something that everybody could find something to do. Now, we spoke about this when we learned the Mamar about Sfiras Ha'omer, but whatever I told you then came from here, slide 15. Oh, wow. How did that happen?
No,
it's wrong, right?
It's not good.
I know a lot of time flies, but... Sorry. And this is what it means. Remember, we said in Shir Shir, Moshcheni Hashem, draw me to you, draw me, singular, to you, and we'll run after you. And one of the questions there is very similar. How come it starts off with singular and then it finishes with plural? We will run. Pirish kasher timshecheni b'suasad leila. If Hashem will draw me to Him by awakening me and arousing me with rusad leila, as I miyad achrecha narutza, then I'll do everything from my part to run after you. If I'm not going to make the effort after Hashem shines His light to do my avodah, levara nefesh bahamis, azai then af shanim shechasusid leila. Even though there was a susid leila, page 42, 43, la'ira nefesh lekis, to arouse the godly soul, la'yia la'kiyum asmada. It wouldn't have any permanency. Because, like we said before, the light can't connect to me, so it's there. But after the Eis Ratzon goes away, the light goes away, and the arousal goes away, the excitement goes away. But if a person, as soon as he feels the Adam Elyon arousing me and inspiring me, right away he would bring his carbon. When the source of the Leila comes, as I take from Iyar taschilu gam atem, la'akeres korbanchem and habehema, then I'll bring my carbon. I'll work with my nefesh habahamis. Azayiyah dover hamiskalim. Then it'll be something that will be long lasting. I just want to explain a little bit more this piece. He's going to explain in the Mamar itself. But let me just say it first, then we'll do it inside. Again, we spoke about this in the Mamar Sfart Alechem. We spoke about this on Pesach. When there is a Isrusa de La'ela, that means there's an Eis Ratzon, the window opened up, there's a godly light shining. Which part of me gets inspired? My Nefesh HaLekis or my Nefesh HaBahamis? Or both get inspired? What? Nefesh Bahamas. That's one opinion. No, it has to be another opinion. Both. And a third opinion, Nefesh HaLekis. 3 opinions. I knew there'd be 3 opinions. It's all 3 possible. Either the Nefesh HaLekis or the Nefesh Bahamas, or maybe both. So the answer is, it's really only the Nefesh HaLekis. And the reason is because the Nefesh Bahamas doesn't respond to godly light. It's like not having an antenna. You can't pick up the signals. If you want to pick up signals, you have to have the right keli to pick it up. The Nefesh HaLekis responds when godliness is revealed. The Nefesh Bahamis, no. It's just like you're in a room and you'll speak about something that it says in Chassidus. So people who know the subject and hear what you're saying, they understand you and they get very excited. But somebody that never studied Chassidus and they know nothing, and they don't know what the word Nefesh HaLekis is and Nefesh Bahamis. They don't know what Klipa and Kedusha. They don't know what spirits are. And you're talking, they won't be inspired because they don't understand the word you're saying. Or imagine you're speaking in English and there are people in the room that don't speak English. You can say the most amazing, fantastic, unbelievable things that will really get people flying through the roof. And they'll be sitting there, no response, because they don't understand the language. The Nefesh Bahamis does not respond to godly light. So therefore, when we say there's a Rusa Leila, Hashem shines His light, and the soul gets inspired, it's mainly the godly soul. When someone gets inspired on Shabbos because it's Shabbos, or Yontif because it's Yontif, or because they were standing in front of the Rebbe, or because they went to Israel and they stood by the wall, and they get inspired, that means the Nefesh HaLekis got inspired. Now, that happened naturally. What he's saying I need to do is try to get my Nefesh Bahamis involved. And if I get the Nefesh Bahamis involved and make some change in my animal soul, that's going to be permanent. That means I'll be taking this godly light that came to my Nefesh HaLekis, and I'm going to find a way that it should penetrate and somehow influence and make changes in my Nefesh Bahamis. So let's see this inside, page 44, 45. Hine Korban shetakrivu atem. This korban that you will bring, humin abehema. You're bringing it from your nefesh Bahamas. Mash'enkein Adam ki Yakriv, but the korban that comes from above, when Hashem shines His light and causes me to become excited, in Yakriv Mikem, Hainu Commissioners Borlel. This is like we said before, that what? Shebachol Echod Yeshkinas Nefesh Alakiz Nefesh Bahamas. Every person has a nefesh Alakiz and a nefesh Bahamas. So being in Adam ki Yakriv, when the Yisrus Eila comes, Hanimshech L'maylo L'oyer L'hakriv Nefesh Adam Shalamata, Hi'arazu, this light, where does it reach and where does it touch? Nefesh Alakis Levad. Because the Nefesh Alakis is Chelik Alakam Yimal, it's part of Hashem. V'nikras Neir Havaya Nishmas Adam. The Nefesh Alakis is called the candle of God, the Neshama of man. In other words, Nefesh Alakis is part of Hashem. Shibkinis Adam, Nasa Adam B'Tzalmeinu Kid Maseinu. The Nefesh Alakis evolves from that Madrega called Adam. He's talking all about the Nefesh Alakis. What is the criteria that the Nefesh Alakis has that because of that, it's moved by this light that shines? Number one, it's called Ner Havai Nishmas Adam. It's a Chelik Alakam Imal. It's Ner Havai Nishmas Adam. This is the Nefesh that it says evolves from the Adam Elyon. So because of all this, it has a natural love of Hashem. Mitzat Sharsha Umekar Chutzvah, because of its source, where it's coming from. Rakshi Musuteres, but that love for Hashem is hidden. So I don't have to create a new love, I just have to allow that love that's hidden to rise to the surface, to come to be developed. Okay, and that's why if there's a Srusa D'Leila, Hashem shines His light on me. That causes the love of the Nefesh Alakis to rise to the surface. And it becomes Batal Hashem like a small lamp before a torch. If you remember, we find this mashal, especially in the Mamar that deal with Sarasim and Tshuva, that if you take a small candle and you bring it closer to a torch, you see that the little flame gets drawn towards the big flame, which is the torch. Hashem is the torch. He's a big fire. Hashem alakecha eish eichlahu. Hashem appeared to Moshe Rabbeinu as a fire, and our neshama is the small flame. So when that big fire comes close to our neshama is drawn into Hashem because it's fire drawn to fire. But the Nefesh Bahamas doesn't have the substance in it that should make it respond or react or be drawn to this godly light. So the Nefesh Bahamas is flat. It isn't moved by it. What does happen, we said in the beginning of the Maimas, when the Nefesh Alakis is excited and inspired, the Nefesh Bahamas gets schlepped along with it. It's like a person that gets excited and starts dancing. So he's dancing, and his clothes are also dancing. They're jumping up and down. But the clothes don't dance. They don't understand. They're not excited. They don't get it. But if I'm dancing, so the clothes that I'm dressed in also dance. That's natural. So the Nefesh Bahamas is the clothes. The Nefesh Alakis is clothed in a Nefesh Bahamas. So when the Nefesh Alakis is excited, Nefesh Bahamas gets also excited, but it's not its own excitement. And that's because Nefesh Bahamas doesn't respond to this godly light. Which means, therefore, anytime, if you're on Mitzvah, you talk to somebody about Shabbos candles, about tefillin, about mezuzah, about anything, and they respond in a positive way, what you just witnessed with your eyes of flesh, you witness the awakening of a Nefesh Alakis. Because Nefesh Bahamas doesn't respond. In fact, everyone said when you go on Mitzvah and you talk to someone, you should always make a point to bring in a pasuk, or Ma'amar Chazal, say something, mention something, you try to explain what Shabbos is, what candles are, what tefillin is, what mezuzah is, and you bring something from a sikha, from a pasuk, from a medrash, because when you say words of Torah, that's really the thing that's going to arouse the person. Everything else niceness and the humor and the nice smile, they're all important, but that's the packaging. Really, what is it that inspires the person? You need to inspire Nefesh Elokis. It's because I'm approaching him. First of all, I'm coming as a shliach of the Rebbe. So through me, the Rebbe's koyach is being transmitted to this person. And second of all, I say a word of chumash, something from a medrash. I say something from a sikha, words of Torah, that touches the Nefesh Elokis of this person, and that's why they respond. So how come they don't respond in a positive way? What? Right, so Nefesh Habahamis is covering up for some reason or other. This person, his Nefesh Habahamis is not letting his Nefesh Elokis get excited. And nobody should get discouraged because you never know what happens after they walk away. I know someone personally that I got to know him. I never really spoke to him much about Yiddishkeit because he didn't look to me like he was even ready to listen. And a few years later, I was in touch with him again. He was Lubavitch. And I had no idea how all this happened. But one thing he told me, that he was visiting someone's house, and there was an older woman there, not someone who was very skilled in Mitzrayim or anything like that. And she said to him, "Did you put on film today?" He didn't want to be bothered, so he said, "Yeah." And he didn't put on film. But then when he got home, he felt guilty that he lied. So he went in and found this film, and he put it on. And that was the beginning of the end. Once he put it on, and then he put it on again, and then one thing led to another, and his whole life changed. So that's someone who you were not successful with. We have no idea what happens after. But this is the Nefesh Elokis. The Nefesh Habahamis doesn't respond that way. But the Nefesh Habahamis, even though Nefesh Habahamis also has a beautiful source, it comes from the Merkava. It comes from those holy angels in the Merkava. But the Nefesh Habahamis descended, and therefore its connection to its source is so much more hidden. It's now a soul that consists of Kedusha and Klippa. Ruba could call around. In fact, the majority of it is Klippa. You can't say that. That it would respond, that it has hidden love, and the love comes out. The Nefesh Habahamis doesn't have that hidden love. It's connected just to Gashmis. Even though there's Source of Leila, and there's this brilliant godly light that's shining, the Nefesh Habahamis and the Guf, they don't get excited, they don't respond to this. Even though it is a pasuk that says the spirit of man goes upward, but then it also says in the same pasuk it says that there's a part of the person that goes down. That's the Nefesh Habahamis. Nefesh Habahamis' nature is looking for whatever is gashmis, is chumrius. Nefesh Elokis is looking for things that are higher. So that's our avodah. The fact that the Eibishter did something, that's what the Eibishter did. Now, what do I need to do? I need to take that Esairus, that inspiration that I got from Hashem, and I need to use it to inspire my Nefesh Habahamis. I need to purify my Nefesh Habahamis. In fact, that's why a person who works on self-refinement is called Oved Elokim. Oved means to work, but there's more to it. The word Oved is K'may Eres Avudim, is the same root as the words Eres Avudim, which means hides. Leather is basically taking skin of animals, and you work it through. What are you doing? You're taking skin of animals, which is very rough, and you work it out. You make it so refined, it becomes a coat, it becomes a jacket, it becomes clothing. So really, the definition of avodah is not just to do something and work hard. Definition of Avodah is to make something coarse become refined. And that's my Nefesh Bahamas. Nefesh Bahamas is coarse. And Avodah is when I make it more refined. Shema Abadeisam umetaknam. Like our sages say, the angel that's in charge of Hiroy, when a woman conceives a child, the Malach asks Hashem, so what's going to be the future of this child? And Hashem says the child will be rich, the child will be poor, the child will be healthy, the child will be sick, the child will be strong, the child will be weak. But there's one thing Hashem doesn't say. But Hashem doesn't say whether the child will be a tzaddik or a rasha, which means that doesn't come from Hashem, that comes from me and my avodah. Yakriv Mikem, I know never shall kiss levad. So that's why it starts off Adam ki Yakriv Mikem. If the Adam Ha'elyon will draw closer Mikem from you, you're never shall kiss to him. Our korban chem, but your korban, this is min habehema. Hainu levana nefesh bahamis. That means that my part of the work is I don't need to inspire my nefesh kiss. It's already inspired. I need to inspire my nefesh bahamis. There is a b'chinas iskati of this hapcha to discipline the nefesh bahamis and to transform the nefesh bahamis. And how do I do that? His bonus v'gdulas Hashem by using the mind. This is the main principle in Chassidus, that the mind is the key to the heart. So I use the mind to meditate on the greatness of Hashem. Every person, every person should think about Hashem according to what they have the capacity to think and to understand. So no one should really, these two words mean no one should use as an excuse. I don't know so much, I didn't learn so much, I really don't know. He's saying, just think about Hashem to the degree that you could. There's once a chassid that wrote the Frierdiker Rebbe, the reason why I'm not this way or that way, I'm not sure what he was referring to, but obviously that he's not living up to the standards that were expected of him, because I didn't get a chance to learn so much, and I don't have so much knowledge. So the Frierdiker Rebbe answered him, it's enough to live up to the standards of what the knowledge you do have. Just live up to the standards of what you do know, and you'll be doing fine. So therefore, every person could be mizbeinen in the greatness of Hashem, whether I know a lot or I know a little. What he says is every person according to what their brain can understand. Eibishter doesn't expect of us to do things that are beyond our capacity. So therefore, every person should think about Hashem using the information and the knowledge that they have. Yes, when they learn more and they understand deeper, they'll have to go forward. But even that is enough to inspire my nefesh bahamis. And the order is mitchila tzarich iskafia. First, a person can expect to do iskafia. Iskafia means to discipline, to bend. B'shleish lebusha nefesh. That means we're not talking about experiencing and feeling major sensation of love and fear of Hashem, but just practically speaking, being in control of my thought, speech, and action. Page 48, 49. The first stage of this avodah of refining my nefesh bahamis is by simply being in control of nefesh bahamis and disciplining nefesh bahamis, not allowing it to go off and do something which goes against Hashem, whether it's a thought or speech or action. And after that, then the next stage is that it comes to a point that not only my dish of Bahamas is disciplined, comes to a point when Nefesh itself wants to do what's right to do. So that's what it means, min ha-behema. Let's do one more paragraph. Gam pirish min ha-behema. Hayne mavur la'el shegidei lachniya levar nefesh bahamis. In order to subdue the nefesh bahamis, here we're finishing. Udavka de shorsha mekaira. Mikem means from it, from the nefesh bahamis itself, you can transform the nefesh bahamis. And that is by identifying it with its source. The source of Nefesh Habahama is a place, Shorish B'Merkava. Like we said before, that the way to bring out the good in something is by connecting it to its source, because the source of everything ultimately is good. That's why in the brachas before the Shema, we talk about the Malachim and the Chayis HaKadosh, Makdishim, Mamlichim, how they are holy and how they announce Hashem as their king, and they say Kodesh and Kodesh, and they say Baruch. Hashem said after this poem Nefesh Habahama, that'll get Nefesh Habahama excited because that's its source. So another way of explaining these words, bring the carbon from your behema, means not only bring your animal soul, but the way to bring your animal soul closer is by bringing the behema, the source of the animal soul, which is the behema up there. Okay, we'll stop here. Yeah.
Hi girls, good morning. Happy Monday. The speaker is downstairs and she's